Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Reggie Marra on the line, and he's co-founder over at Fully Human at Work, and he's also author of Enough with the Talking Points, Doing More Good Than Harm in Conversation. Reggie, welcome to the show.
Adam, thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, man, so I am excited to get into your new book and to bring that to my listeners. For everybody listening that's been following me for a long time, they know I love bringing an author on and helping them promote their books. We love to sell books over here, so happy to get into this with you, Reggie. But before we do that, just to give the audience a little bit of your background, tell us a little bit more about how you started in your career.
Yeah, so I began as a high school teacher and basketball coach in New York City some decades ago, and transitioned from that to some college administration and teaching, and then left in around 1996 to just kind of pave my own way, not really having much entrepreneurial experience, but trying to build my own curriculum and help people in a way that I felt really called to do. And I've been writing through all of that as well. So that's a real nutshell of what I've been doing.
That's awesome. And I think it's a great transition, too. Speaking of writing, congratulations on the new book. So Enough with the Talking Points, Doing More Good Than Harm in Conversation. Just to kick off the book conversation, what was the inspiration for this?
I'd love to give you a real noble inspiration, but it was really within the last 10 years listening to just about everybody, especially on social media, and especially in politics, but not excluding business or education. My experience is that we have lost the ability to interact with each other, especially when we disagree, with any kind of respect or civility. So I was playing with that for about a decade, and in the last 5 years, I really began working on the book, doing some writing, first in blog form, and then I had enough to put the book together, which it came out in June of 2020. But it was just a real frustration and disappointment, even sadness, just around the loss for me of the ability for most of us to disagree and still respect each other. And that was the motivation for it. And it's not going away anytime soon as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And kind of seeing the layout of the book, so we're obviously not going to have time to go on the entire book, and if we did, we wouldn't anyway. Why? Because we want the listeners to go buy it. We do like helping authors and supporting their books and their efforts. So, but I do want to go through kind of a little bit of the layout and how it's set up. So part 1, knowing yourself, your biases, your view, working with what and how you see. Part 2, honoring facts and identifying opinions. Really, will that hold up in court or in the laboratory? I just like kind of the style of the format of your writing, like just kind of how you lay everything out. Tell us a little bit more about what you want. And I know you want to get a lot of things, but what are some of the things that you want the readers to take away from reading this?
The first one is you have to know yourself and your biases and what I call your cultural givens. Everyone who's born anywhere in the world throughout history, including this century, is given something at birth. Usually it's their parents or their teachers' worldviews, and it's up to each of us to reflect on what we're given, and as we live our own lives, see how it holds up. And if it doesn't hold up, come up with your own view of things. If it does hold up, then it's okay to hold on to it. So first thing is just know yourself in conversation, because nobody has all of the truth including me as I say this right now. But so self-reflection is a big part of it. Just knowing who I am in conversation so I can then discern in conversation what's mine, what really belongs to me, and what belongs to the other person in the conversation. So if you can't make that move, you're basically speaking blindly, so to speak. You really don't know yourself. You can't really discern what belongs to the other person as you're speaking.
No, it makes perfect sense. And when you talk about some of these biases or some of these things we're born with, whether it's cultural or geographical or, all these different things, it could be time period when you were born. I mean, all these different things, they just play a part in the, how we view the world and the lenses that we see everything with. And I think that might be one of the trickiest things is just kind of understanding that your viewpoint isn't the only. Well, for me, that is just throwing that out there. I'll pick on myself. I'm not picking on the audience or you. For me, I'm like, wait a minute, is that real? I don't know. That's what I think, but is it real? I don't know.
Yeah, that's Adam, that's perfectly said. I mean, that's exactly it. And then being willing to do the work to find out if it's real or not, because there's lots of sources of bad information nowadays, and it requires some effort, some commitment to really get to the heart of the matter, to see what's true or at least truthful, and go from there. So it requires effort for sure.
So what are some of the, give me a tool from the book that leaders are going to read, or leaders and readers are the same thing, synonym there, are going to be equipped with when looking at the book. And the reason I say that is because I think a lot of what we talked about, like we intuitively, or maybe not intuitively, but at many times we know, we're like, okay, they might be off on something here, but we don't necessarily have some of the tools or that next level of how do we actually address this. Talk a little bit more about how you talk about that in the book.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak about two things more or less at the same time because they're related, and we heard of them back in elementary school, and I'm sorry to say we still need to address them. But one tool is just discerning between opinion and fact. Now that's, again, that sounds like, okay, we all know better and we all do that. Well, we don't. We really don't. And tied in with yeah. So you're convinced that something, I'm convinced of something that I agree with, and I start speaking about it as though it's a fact, having done no real research to see if it's true. And that especially is exacerbated if I get all of my information from one or two basic sources because of confirmation bias. I only look for confirmation from places that are biased towards my view already. So that one thing, is this an opinion? And if it is, I should state it as, well, in my view or in my experience, I found. That way it's clear, it's my opinion. The cousin to that is this true? So what I'm talking about now is this really true? And again, it takes some effort and some self-reflection to determine that. And there's a difference between something I say being true and my own truthfulness. So the example I like to use is there's a four-way intersection and everybody goes at the same time and two cars hit. And let's assume that all the drivers are honest and they don't want to demonize anybody unintentionally. So they tell the truth to the officer who investigates the accident. But none of them probably have the truth. They have their best guess, well, that person was on their cell phone and that person rolled through, but I was doing a good job. So they can be truthful. I can be honest or truthful without ever really knowing if what I'm saying is the truth, an empirically proven fact. So those two things are basic. Is what I'm saying factual or is it an opinion, and how hard have I worked to get to the actual truth of it in order to say it with a high degree of confidence. So those two things among many that I think are really essential. And again, it's work. It's not magic. There is no way to snap your fingers and make it happen. You have to do the work to really, from the language of my youth growing up as a New York Catholic kid, I have to examine my conscience in order to see if what I'm saying really holds up.
That's awesome. Well, Reggie, really been a pleasure having you on the show today and introducing your new book to my audience, which I want them to go check out. Definitely feels really, really easy to find. I went on Amazon, just typed in Reggie Marra, so you're going to see all that stuff in the show notes for everybody listening. Definitely go check out this book. So enough of talking points. Do more good than harm in conversation. Great topic, great book, Reggie. So if somebody's listening to this and they want to follow your work overall or to connect with you and your team, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way is my own website, which is simply my name, Reggie, R-E-G-G-I-E, Marra, M-A-R-R-A.com. So it's reggiemarra.com. And you can also find the fullyhumanatwork.com site just by typing in those words, fullyhumanatwork, no spaces, no punctuation.com. And you can get in touch with me and my co-founder, Kent Frazier, who has been on Adam, on your program in the past month or so. Those are the two best ways. Guy. Yeah. Kent is really a great friend and a wonderful colleague. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, again, Reggie, really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing more about it. And again, congrats on the new book. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Reggie, thanks again for coming on the show.
You're very welcome, Adam. Thank you for having me.